I'm in Tombstone, Arizona, home of the OK Corral, where the most famous gunfight of all time took place in 1881. It was Wyatt Earp, Virgil Earp, and Morgan Earp, the Earp brothers, along with Doc Holliday, who took on members of the notorious Cowboys gang. What does this have to do with Freemasonry? Well, there's always been a question as to whether or not any of the Earp brothers were Freemasons, and there's lots of conflicting information. And there's also been a question about what role Freemasonry played not only in the Wild West, but specifically in the shootout at the OK Corral and its aftermath. And I figure who better to ask than the Freemasons, who are right across the street from the OK Corral, here at King Solomon's Lodge number 5, which has been here since 1881 when the shootout took place. Welcome to the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry channel. I'm Maynard Edwards, 33rd degree, along with Wyatt Earp, who isn't a brother, but he's being portrayed today by brother Ken Barrett, 32nd degree KCCH. So Honorable Brother Ken, I can't tell you how excited I am standing here in this building, in this town, because you must get this a lot. For a kid walking into a place like this, getting to play cowboy and be in the actual Old West and being in the Masonic Lodge of Tombstone, Arizona, I feel like a little kid. You have to get that a lot.
Absolutely, and I felt the same thing.
So much so that you stayed.
Visiting Tombstone was on my bucket list, and of course, being a little older and growing up with Westerns on TV, to come to Cowboy Mecca and walk through the places where they walked, stand where they fell. This is where the Old West really happened.
It is, and you can feel it when you come to this town. And when you can't say Tombstone without saying the OK Corral, and then the Earp brothers, of course, Wyatt being the most famous, Doc Holliday, the Clantons, all of that, which happened almost outside this window. I mean, the OK Corral, we can see it from where we're standing right now. And you all, in fact, do degree work at the OK Corral once in a while. I just saw a flyer for a low veil being held at the OK Corral.
That's correct. Twice now, last year and the year before, inside the OK Corral in the theater where they put on the shows, we have done 2 third degrees.
Well, let's solve a couple of mysteries right off the bat, because I know there's conflicting information online. First and foremost, the most famous of the Earp brothers, Wyatt, was in fact not a Mason.
That apparently is correct.
And Morgan Earp, we don't know about. James Earp was the brother we don't hear about too much. He wasn't at the gunfight, so he doesn't get the headlines that the other 3 Earp brothers get. Not a Mason. Their father, Nicholas, was a Mason.
Correct. And we have photographic evidence of that. And the boys grew up wanting to be Masons. When they came to Tombstone, they thought this is the place where they were going to settle down. The new lodge opened, so Virgil was the first to petition. But because he assisted Wyatt in his gambling games, he was rejected.
It would be my guess that once Virgil was rejected, the other Earp boys said, well, if Virgil's not in, we're not in either. And thus ends the Masonic lineage of the Earps.
If Virgil had been accepted and then Wyatt, who knows? Today we might be known as Wyatt Earp Lodge rather than King Solomon Lodge.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the lodge itself. So under dispensation from the Grand Lodge of California beginning in 1881.
Correct. And in June of 1881, that's when we held our first meeting here. And then a year later, in June of 82, with 5 lodges now in Arizona territory, those 5 lodges got together and formed the Grand Lodge of Arizona.
So when you talk about Freemasonry in the West and in the Wild West, this is the lodge. There's no 2 ways about it.
We are the only lodge in Arizona still meeting in its original meeting place. That is what we call a territorial lodge, a lodge that started during the territorial days in Arizona, prior to Valentine's Day, 1912.
When Arizona became a state.
Correct.
when the lodge was under dispensation that first year, the first master of the lodge was a brother. He played a little bit of a, I guess depending on how you want to look at it, an infamous role, not in the shootout itself at the OK Corral, but in the aftermath of the OK Corral.
His name was Judge Wells Spicer. Anyone can go online and just Google the Spicer decision and read his decision saying that the Earps were justified in what they were doing, in going down behind the OK Corral to disarm the cowboys. They met with armed resistance. They responded appropriately, and the charges against them were dismissed.
There are things that history has sort of misrecorded. The gunfight at the OK Corral, it didn't actually take place in the corral. First of all, in the corral it's not a big spot. It's a small spot, correct?
Correct.
And behind the OK Corral is basically out here in the middle of the road now, and it was more in front of the photography shop that's still next door. I don't know whether that's a historic building, whether it's still operating, but because there were witnesses who saw it happen, this is how the story has grown. Somebody was able to record the events.
Many witnesses. And so there was a 30-day hearing, and all of these witnesses testifying as to what they saw. And there was conflict left and right, but the judge put the weight of his decision on those people who were neutral parties, who didn't know who the people are, described them as, for instance, they described Doc Holliday as the man in the gray coat.
So they don't know Doc, they don't know who he is, what he's about, so they can't say this is a good guy or this is a bad guy, because people that knew the Cowboys or knew the Earps might have had an opinion one way or another.
Correct.
In terms of the Masonic, I guess, involvement, there was no direct Masonic involvement, because let's ask about the other side. To the best of our knowledge at this point in time, none of the Cowboys, Ike Clanton, any of the other Cowboys involved, none of them were Freemasons to the best of our ability to discern at this point in time.
Correct, on the Cowboy faction. Now, on the Earp faction, Turkey Creek Jack Johnson, we know was a Mason.
Right.
And played by, in the movie, Buck Taylor. And he is a Mason. And in the movie Tombstone, and then the subsequent movie, The Alamo, he wore a fob around his neck identical to this. And this was, as I understand it, taken from an impression of the one that he has.
Now, was Turkey Creek Johnson a member of this lodge?
No, and he was not a Mason at that time in the 1880s.
This leaves Doc Holliday. Now, Doc Holliday, he had been a dentist. He was trained in Pennsylvania, but then he gets tuberculosis. He no longer can be a dentist because you've got tuberculosis. You can't be in front of people's faces. So he becomes more or less a professional gambler and a professional alcoholic, so to speak. We don't have any suspicion that Doc Holliday was ever a Mason.
Correct, as far as I know.
Let's talk a little bit about this historic building, because it has been here on this site, stood witness to the gunfight since 1881. Tell us a couple of the cool things about the room.
In 1983, the lodge decided to pull up the carpet and put down new carpet. Again, 1983.
So
and
101 years after the lodge really was chartered.
And when they pulled the carpet up, this was underneath.
Wow.
And they had, since it was the original carpet, we understand from France, with all of this Masonic emblems and lore on it.
You might think to yourself, it wouldn't be from France, but Tombstone was a very cosmopolitan area at the time, because it was flush with silver and flush with liquid cash. Everybody in town they were wearing nice suits, finest hats. You know, this is not cowboy garb. This is nice. This is the finery of the day that Wyatt Earp and those guys would have been wearing, because this town was rich and all the ladies wore fine dresses. So carpet from France is not far-fetched in the slightest.
No, and when you read the newspaper articles about the various saloons and eateries opening up, they talked about plush carpeting, crystal chandeliers, et cetera, et cetera. And something you have to remember is that Tombstone was new. Everything was new. Basically, in 1879, there was nothing but a bunch of tents. And then 2 years later, 1881, it's a boomtown with thousands of people.
Up above here, there's a loft. That wasn't for an audience. You say that was likely for an organ loft.
We think so. And if you see the dark wood stripes are a little different here. We think maybe there was a staircase here at that time, but we just don't know.
Sure. Now, what about some of the other? I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit about the lodge banner there, and we got a nice shot of the lodge charter right there between us, and the ashlars in the front. It's so cool that so many of the elements here are original to the lodge,
Including the furniture, the altar, the east, west, and south. These wooden chairs, these are all original. And
Wow.
they came around. Now, obviously, the sideline blue chairs,
Yeah, those are newer.
those are pretty recent. But they used to all be chairs like that you see along here.
So for brothers who are, I mean, add this to your bucket list, fellas. This. You said Tombstone was your bucket list, and then you end up moving here. Tombstone. I've been to Tombstone before. I wasn't a Mason when I came here the first time, so I didn't know to look for the lodge. But now I'm like, this is stupid exciting for me. So for brothers who want to come here and meet, this is a very active lodge. I think you have a Royal Arch chapter that meets here and things of that nature. So give us a little rundown of when the lodge meets and how often and those things.
We meet for a stated meeting on the first Monday of the month, unless it's a legal holiday, and then the second Monday. And but we put on a lot of degrees. Now, our lodge is kind of unique. There are 7 Masonic lodges in Cochise County. We were the first. We're the oldest. Tombstone, the city of Tombstone itself, geographically is the smallest city in Cochise County. Population-wise, it is the smallest city. We don't even have 1,300 people here.
In Tombstone proper.
In Tombstone, yes. Now, the next smallest city has thousands of people. And yet, our lodge has more members than any of the other lodges in Cochise County.
Can't imagine
More
why.
than 2 or 3 lodges combined. We are the most active, we like to say. We put on more degrees than all the other lodges combined each year. And we do that because we have to. We cannot rely just on people coming and knocking on our door. We have a civic presence. When we have activities, we put it in the local newspaper. We visit other lodges and let them know that we're here. We have people who join our lodge because they come and they see all this and they say, I want to be a Mason and I want to belong here, even if I have to drive 30 miles to get to the meeting. This is where I want to belong. And so it equals success. We have to get the word out because we know if we don't, we're going to fold up.
And so there's the key to a lodge sticking around for well over 100 years and being as prosperous as this one is. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a marquee town around you, Tombstone. Even though it is a small town, it is a legendary town. But they've remained involved, remained active, and embraced the history of this, pretty cool place. So I really commend you guys for everything that you've done. And I can't thank you enough, Brother Pastmaster and Honorable Brother Ken Barrett, 32nd degree KCCH, for taking some time to show us this remarkable place